Kidd, Unterman. Kidd, Unterman. Good morning. Y'all bow with me. Gracious Heavenly Father, for another wonderful day, thank you for all the gifts that you give us, for being there for us, staying by our sides. Lift us up, lead, guide, and direct us. Let us do things that are pleasing in your view. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Mr. Mullis, I didn't bring song today. I didn't know you were going to be here. I noticed. I thought you and Buddy Carter were in the house. Oh, Buddy Carter is here, so we got both of them here. Okay. Remember the rule, blue sheet, and we'll look at the yellow one. Mr. Kidd. Thank you.
And open up a biofuels company plant, and they just would like something from Georgia. Welcome them to Georgia.
This is a welcome to Georgia.
It's been judiciarized.
Are there any questions? Since Mr. Kidd's leaving, y'all don't get to ask him any. Ms. Underman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. On this second page, I have Senate Bill 407, the Health Strategies Council, Clinical Laboratory Blood Bank and Tissue Bank Committee. It's right in the middle of the page. This is a piece of legislation where we're cutting the red tape. This is a Department of Community Health bill, and it was legislated in 2008. It's never been appointed by the governor, and the department wants to do away with it so they can move on.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Former member of the House, wonderful human, and ratchet jaw himself.
Always nice to be with you, Your Holiness. I've got bills Bridge 403, which from the Finance Commission, dealing with the school nurse program. 404 is professional development, also from the Finance Commission. 412 is the DeKalb County redistricting bill. And on behalf of Majority Leader Rogers, two bills also on the modified structure of section 153. This is when a teacher gets let go because of budgetary constraints. The file is so noted that it wasn't for performance. And the other one is SB 289, which it's an optional bill, but encouraging students to take at least one online course when they're in high school.
Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we consider the merits of your bill, Mr. Chairman, I just wondered how's that city of Ashford doing?
It really is doing very, very well. I think it's going to probably be eligible for the Rules Committee, from what my understanding is.
It's going to be either Ashford or Shangri-La, right?
It's going to depend upon what happens on the floor. I thought about Reaganville, but you said not to use that name, so I decided not to. I didn't want to be too controversial, sir.
Thank you. These are good bills. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkerson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'd like to ask your favorable consideration of SB 357. It's on the modified open rule toward the bottom of the first page. It repeals Georgia Treaty Timber Act of 1973. The Department of Agriculture requested this. It's an outdated law. It's only on the books and still in one other state, Missouri, at the current time. They don't do that many inspections. It's a self-regulated industry, and we just feel like it'd be less regulation.
This is repealing a law, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Mr. Stone.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Have one additional bill today, in addition to the ones that we covered yesterday. This is my last bill that I'll be adding to your calendar. It's SB 365 on page 1. It's number 6 from the bottom. This is a bill that the real estate closing bar has requested, and I'll have to thank Chairman Willard for his gracious interest in this bill and getting it right. It's a consumer protection bill that will help eliminate so-called witness-only closings. Now, 4 bills above that is SB 333. This is simply a due process bill that allows for borrowers with real estate loans that are secured, business loans or farm loans, to receive notice of when a foreclosure sale of their property is going to be taken. So it's a very simple bill. We've worked with members of the banking community on it, and I think the concern there is that people know when their property is being foreclosed.
Mr. Rice, hold on. Mr. Rice.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me go back to 365 for a second.
365, yes.
Senator Stone, I just noticed that this definition of settlement agent changes from person to the lender or an active member of the state bar.
That's
so it's either a
correct.
lawyer
Or
the lender themselves.
That's correct.
So in situations where I've had some other people effectively close for me, they wouldn't be allowed to do that?
No. The real estate, the only exception in this for handling escrow monies is for real estate brokers and salesmen who customarily take in earnest money, and then at closing that's applied to the sale price. But this is, the Georgia Supreme Court defines real estate closings as practice of law, which is unlawful if you're not a lawyer. It's a misdemeanor in Georgia. This just strengthens those protections because in witness-only closings, the consumer is not getting the advice and protections that a lawyer would provide. So we feel very strongly about this, and again, it will help. The last 2 bills are 117 and 107. They're at the top of the modified open rule list. 117 is the homestead protection bill, and SB 107 is the contempt of court. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Mr. Rice.
No question.
Mr. Stone, you don't need to come back. You've become a regular over here. Okay. If you come back, you'll get gonged, I promise you that. Mr. Loudermilk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Rules Committee. 2 bills. The first one is the 4th bill on the modified open rules, Senate Bill 227. This bill is actually asked for by the governor. I allowed the governor to use that since we had covered what was originally in this bill and 2 other pieces of legislation that moved through. What the bill does now is it establishes an interstate compact regarding children of active duty and guard military to make it easier for transferring of records and them transferring between school systems in different states. We really need this because of the next round of BRAC coming up. We feel it's very important that we have this. It's supported by all of our military leaders in the state, and it's a very good measure. The other bill is the last bill on modified structured rule, Senate Bill 458. This bill does three things. One, it streamlines the documentation process regarding immigration and receiving public benefits. Basically, it just cleans up and says that you only have to prove your citizenship once to any agency. You don't have to do it on a recurring basis. And the other part of it simply clarifies legislative intent from Senate Bill 529 in 2006 and 87 of last year.
Wait a second. You got the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Loudermilk, is it not true that 458 also restricts undocumented students from attending any university system, school, other than, well, actually any of them, and that this bill was objected to by the Chancellor Hank Huckabee?
Well, like I said, the bill just clarifies what legislative intent was in Senate Bill 529 in 2006, which was that federal law already specifies that post-secondary education is a public benefit, and all we're doing is clarifying that. What we had done in 2006 was cited federal code where it listed post-secondary education as a public benefit. All this is doing is actually citing it in a list of other benefits, but we also are inserting public in front of post-secondary education to clarify that it doesn't apply to any private schools or colleges.
If I may ask a follow-up question. Does it not also make a change to the use of foreign passports in the state of Georgia to include a Form I-94, which may or may not be the current form used by a number of agencies, including Homeland Security, in determining whether a person is here lawfully?
It does increase the security of foreign passports. We have a situation that we know of in this state and other states to where certain consulates, you can go to that consulate and you can get a passport. They will issue you a passport. So you could have entered this country illegally, gone to a consulate, and they issue you a passport. What an I-94 form is it's a form that's issued to you as you enter the country, and Immigration Services sees your passport. They verify your passport, that you have a passport when you're entering in the country. All it is a form that they issue to the immigrant or the visitor saying that they verified the passport was in their possession coming across the border. It does clarify that if you're using a foreign passport, it must have one of these two immigration forms accompanying it to be accepted as certification that you are legally in this country.
Thank you.
Ms. Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to SB 227.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that proposition any different from what Senator Harbison had proposed earlier?
I don't believe so. I believe that it's, from my understanding, word for word.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loudermilk.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Senate Bill 319 is in the middle of first page. And what this does, right now in all the state parks, there's all kind of restrictions on boats and times. And what this does is changing it, gives the DNR Commissioner the right to set the boat sizes and activities at state parks. Currently under Title 52, another section, he has the authority to regulate boat operations and other activities on public waters. And this makes the two titles consistent. There was also a committee substitute that changes the law on liveaboard boats from 30 days to 90 days, and it puts restrictions on where they can be docked.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you're on 402, you don't have to come back anymore either.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to congratulate you on a great vote yesterday on the tax bill, bipartisan effort, and as Jack Murphy says, you had a unanimous vote except for 9. Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of bills. The last bill under structured rules is an education bill. This is a school grading bill. The other bill is Senate Bill 362, which is a deadhead logging bill. That just allows us to retrieve the logs that our pioneer fathers attempted to get to market. They didn't make it because the rafts broke apart, and DNR helped us draft some language that protects the natural resources. We appreciate your help. Y'all help me with this bill. I'll be very grateful.
Any questions? Thank you. Mr. Mullis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's so good to see you again.
What an honor it is, Your Grace, to be here. You know, it kind of inspires me, just like the United States Marine hymn. That always motivates me. And I'd be glad to sing some of it for you if you need me to. But I'll go to a modified open rule, Senate Bill 324, which we're talking about horseshoeing. And, you know, you got to be at the right end of the horse so you get in trouble on that one. But the Veterinarian Association and the equine folks have worked together on this, and Representative Jaden will be handling it. And I'll move on if you like.
Oh, please.
Senate Bill 489 is just oversight for the Trauma Commission. Not that they need it, but we failed to put it in the bill a few years ago. And they have to simply report to the House and the Senate Health and Human Services Committee. And Representative Reinders will be handling that. That's all I have right now.
Well, it's just so good to see you again.
You too, sir. And as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back.
As Johnny said, you'll be gone too when you come back.
Hey, Mullis. Hey.
Mullis,
Yeah, but I had yours marked.
no wonder nothing happens in the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
And you are who?
I am Buddy Carter. And Mr. Chairman, I didn't sleep at all last night. I tossed and tumbled all night long, wondering when I would finally get a bill out of House rules.
Buddy, I gave you 6 last year. How many you want?
Well, if I'd known that, I'd slept last night. But anyway. Mr. Chairman, I bring you 2 bills. On page 1 under modified open rule is Senate Bill 369, the geospatial bill that we have discussed numerous times before. A new bill is on page 2 under structured rule. It is Senate Bill 368 having to do with nurses. This has to do with continuing education requirements for nurses as well as for mandatory reporting of nurses, of impaired nurses.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Tippins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Appreciate your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 371 on modified open rule, first page, 3rd from the bottom. This is a little bill I've discussed before about counties and municipalities being able to accept community improvement district funds for improvements on their airports. Very simple bill. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Any questions? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mr. Hill, good to see you all this morning. I have Senate Bill 246. I believe it's on your yellow general calendar, maybe.
Which one is it?
According to your office, I believe that's correct. It's a little retirement bill that I've been working with your retirement chairman and Chairman Coleman as well over the past 2 or 3 years.
It's 3rd page up next to the top.
Senate Bill 246. It really doesn't do a whole lot. What we've always done in this retirement system for non-certified school employees, which includes school bus drivers, lunchroom workers, parapros, those who are not covered by the teacher's retirement system. Their retirement system is a very small system. It has a very small payout. The average check, those retirees, is a little over $300. So it's basically today stands at $14.75 per month for each year of service. So you can do the calculations and see even with a 30-year retirement, it's a relatively small amount. What we've done over the years, we've raised the ceiling, and then any year that we could find the funds, working with the House Chairman, we would add the funds to raise it a quarter or even 50 cents in some years. And that's how we have raised their retirement, just a little at the time over the years. We're now within 25 cents of the present ceiling of $15. And with the guidance, I think, of your retirement, Chairman, we've crafted a bill that we think does some positive things for the retirement system and holds down costs to the state. And here's the three things that this bill really does. It first of all, it increases the amount that employees will pay into the retirement plan each month. It's been a very small amount each month, some $4 a month. That will go to $10 a month on those who are hired and begin work July 1st of this year and later. Secondly, it raises that ceiling to $16, and in committee that was amended to raise it to $16.50. That does not, there are no funds obligated in this bill. That would be appropriated as funds are appropriated. The third thing it does is that it makes the law the present amount that we were paying, the $14.75. The difference between the retirement plan from here on and now is that any new increases beyond $15, this new ceiling will only apply to those active employees. It will not apply to those who are already retired. The 25 cents difference between the $14.75 and the present floor of $15 would apply to all employees, retired or active. So what we're doing, we're moving into a retirement system that basically will only add to those who are actually working. That lowers substantially the cost as we move along. And there again, remembers that this is a very low-paid group, and we think it is deserving of a small retirement plan.
Questions?
One other thing I just would add, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, is that the net effect of this bill is actually, according to the fiscal note, is a positive fiscal impact due to the fact that there'll be new funds going in July. So it's actually a net positive effect of $100,000. There are no funds obligated in this bill.
Let's see, Mr. Hill. My wife retired last year as a lunchroom lady. 17 years, and she draws $18 a month. That's after we pay our health insurance.
That's correct.
I don't know why you don't set it on up to 20 and work it at, because we've done those things a little bit more. $16.50 is what it's going to?
Yes, so that would be the new ceiling, but she would only qualify for the next
I know, but there's a lot of others out there that sure do need some help.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have a new bill done here in just a minute. We're for this one, Jack. Yeah, one of us is anyway.
One of us. Well, I'm for what you're talking about as well. I've come to admire your chairman of retirement because he really is, I think, trying to, on balance, do the right thing for the state.
I have to keep a pride in him the whole time we're working out here. Poor old folks. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
Mr. Hamrick.
Good morning. I have two bills that I guess are on the yellow sheet. I don't see them on the blue sheet. Senate Bill 50, which just adds the Victims' Compensation Fund to the list of fees that are paid through partial payments. It just was left off, and we worked with all the interested groups to get it in the right place on the list. And then there was a House amendment in committee that I had heard the Speaker had an interest in, and I hear that a lot, but I did confirm it with him, that addresses where court can be held when an old courthouse is being renovated, and so that's part of Senate Bill 50. And then Senate Bill 383 is an international arbitration, commercial international arbitration It adds language to our current international arbitration code, and our Georgia businesses that do global commerce are for it, and the Atlanta Metro Chamber believes it will bring convention-type business to the city, so it's supported by the business community, and that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions, Mr. Hamrick? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tollison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm last. I'm just a little dog laying on the porch, Mr. Chairman. I got a little bill.
427, gentlemen, ladies.
Senate Bill 427. I believe it's on your yellow sheets. And what we're trying to do is bring a little more efficiency to our process and putting a permit application tracking system online, so where businesses that applied with EPD for permits, they don't have to call EPD all the time and find out where it is in the process, because that kind of slows down work at EPD. If we put it online, people can just go on and track their permit, so they'll know the status of it in real time. Also in the bill, it creates a process for the expedited permit. You can expedite a permit, but this creates a ability for you to pay to expedite the process. So the state doesn't have to cover that. If somebody has a permit they want to get expedited, then they can pay to have that expedited, whatever that cost would come up to for expediting that permit. And that's really all the bill does.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're setting it for tomorrow. Under structured, SB 362. Do I hear a move? Any objection? We're going to have to vote this one. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? It's on. Under modified structure, SB 412. Do I hear a move? Any opposed? It's on. Under modified structure, SB 407.
Move.
Any opposed? It's on. Modified open, SB 489.
Move.
Any opposed? Under modified open, SB 352.
Move. I think there was an amendment to Mr. Chairman, it's inappropriate. I'm sorry.
Okay. Under modified open, SB 351.
Second.
Any opposed? It's under modified open, SB 227.
Move.
Any opposed? That'll be a starting point.
Okay. What we get, $35 a month? $35 per year service?
Yeah. Because the locals have to pay for it, and we don't, I don't.
After Robbie reads